Alright guys, the time is now for a showdown between the Wood Elves, who are going to be led by Big Papa Dirthu, and the Last Defenders, who shall be helmed by a glorious banana slan atop his mighty palanquin. So right out of the gates, you can see the dinos are up to some schemes. Over here in the forest, they do have a pretty substantial vanguard. Well, I guess 2 chameleon skinks. That's pretty substantial. That's like 1,200 gold, give or take. But I actually don't see these guys. They're hidden. They're able to just barely slip through my defenses. I actually vanguarded some wild riders up here on the hill just to kind of make sure. I was like, you know what? A lot of people like to vanguard in this area, so I'm going to put these wild riders right here. But it looks like the skinks are going to be able to slip into the forest. These guys are frightened by faster and stronger enemies nearby, but they are able to escape here, and they're going to be running into the forest. So I cannot believe that I missed that in the game, but man, those guys just barely escaped my clutches. But for the rest of my army, I'm going to be trying something a little bit strange. It's going to be a very hybrid army. We have the big trees. We have Dirthu, of course. He's pretty good against dinosaurs. I mean, 78 weapon strength. He has magic damage to circumvent physical resist. Although I'm not sure what dino units do have really good physical resist, or if any of them do. Usually they have those general ward saves from the Slan, who does give him that very, very good shield of the old ones. But he's pretty powerful in melee. He can fight the big dinos. He has a big HP pool. He has some good items with the Sword of Death for the big blobby fights. And he has the ability to summon Manticore. So he's going to have the Manticore summon, and the Branch Wraith here is going to have the Earthblood. So just 2 spells. And it's very, I wouldn't call it a Death Star build because it's pretty diverse. We do have the 2 Way Watchers here. The Way Watchers are pretty good against the dinos. I mean, if the dinos go super wide and just have a ton of Saurus, they're pretty much going to be useless. But if they do have some big dinosaurs like the Bastillodon here with the Solar Engine, they have a Jabba the Hutt back there, they have a Bastillodon. I mean, there's another Bastillodon. Yeah, it looks like he does have the Solar Engine plus the Rev Crystal. So there's some pretty big targets for the Way Watchers here. So on top of that, we got the Treekin and the Eternal Guard who are going to be stacked up here, benefiting from the Call of the Wild. And the Treekin are just really tanky against like Saurus and Skinks. They're just going to be able to hold all day. They have decent missile resist, I think of 15%, and then also have 20% physical resist. And yeah, just good defensive stats. So we're going to be trying them out. I know that a lot of people consider Treekin to be terrible, but I've just been mixing them into builds, trying to experiment a little bit. And honestly, that's how you learn anyway. So 2 Eternal Guard in the back and the Branch Wraith, of course. And over on the flank, we do have another group of Eternal Guard, as well as the War Dancers with the Azrai Spears. So they're very good, dedicated anti-large tool, but you have to be careful. Skinks are really good against them. They can take some heavy damage from these skink cohorts with javelins, so you have to keep them back, be very conservative, and wait for that time to strike. So we have one group of those. And last but not least, we got the 2 Wild Riders who have already failed on their task of hunting down these skinks. So very well played by my opponent, slipping past my defenses there. And on the other side, we do also have the Wild Riders with shields. So these guys are quite good. They can ramrod Saurus pretty hard. They hit like trucks. 44 plus weapon strength, well 45 with the frenzy, and 67 charge bonus. They can run down skink cohorts, chameleon skinks. That's why I really like them. They're just a very, very solid unit in this matchup. For my opponent's force, it's got a whole front line of the skink cohorts with javelins. This very much seems to be the metagame. I mean, they do have they have shields, right? So they're going to be pretty durable against Wood Elf missile fire. And you can see I am going to be auto-firing here, shooting in at the Bastillodon. Granted, my opponent does have the Rev Crystal, so he's going to be able to heal that up pretty quick. But good damage, but a good response. The Bastillodon gets in there and actually takes out 5 of the Way Watchers right away. So that's a very, very solid little first volley there from the Bastillodon. But the Skink Cohort Javelins, very good against Wood Elves. I mean, even against Eternal Guards and Silver Shielded units, they do have fairly light armor. You can see the Bastillodon shot actually going into the Treekin, it looks like, in some of these Eternal Guard, and they took that pretty well. But the frontline fighting is underway here, and I believe I do have some Wild Riders coming in the flank. So one Wild Rider is going to be coming right here, and the other one did slip up and around the back, and we're going to be sandwiching, just full frontal charging up against these Skink Cohorts, and we're going to be sending them to another dimension here in just a moment. So, Wild Riders charging in, the Treekin are just waddling in the river chasing them, but here comes the massive charge, and those skinks are just going to get brutalized. So much HP damage, instantly chucks half their health, and the other group doesn't take quite as much because it wasn't like that full charge in the back, but you're able to break 2 groups of the skinks. I mean, they will be coming back, but that's definitely a very good way to start the battle. Now, in the meantime, my opponent does get up and around the back with the skinks that I did miss, and these guys are going to start shooting their darts into the War Dancers, into the Way Watchers, and it's actually doing some pretty good damage, at least to the Way Watchers so far. And yeah, I mean, this is like the perfect counter against Azrai Spears in the back line, so very, very good stuff from my opponent so far. So, we've done some pretty good damage against the Skink Cohorts. Those guys have been forced back, and now the Saurus are going to be fighting, and the Saurus will do a good job here. They have their anti-large, they have the spears. I mean, not the best armor piercing, but they're still going to be able to kind of poke down the Treekin. But really, I just want the Treekin to hold while Big Daddy Dirthu is able to just go Optimus Prime and do some good work. Now, the Wild Riders, I tried to get a charge into the spears, but my opponent did see it coming, and he actually braced very, very efficiently because those guys were marching. So I was like, you know what, I can probably get a free charge here, but look at that. A massive overcasted net of Amnitok coming down from the Slan Mage, which is quite nice. You can see that the Solar Engine's going to be shooting in, and the spears are also coming in. Another banishment. So the banishment does barely clip the wings of these Wild Riders. It doesn't really get right into the center mass. So thankfully for me, it wasn't kind of the worst case scenario. But, you know, for the most part, a very good play. I'm going to be losing some to the spears here. I'm taking some fire from the Skinks and also the Bastillodon. So things are getting a little bit wild. So my opponent does also have some Cold One Spear Riders. Cold One Spear Riders, I think he had some elite troops in the back somewhere, maybe some Temple Guard or something, I'm not sure. Maybe it was just Source, yes. The Temple Guard are going to be guarding the Slann, which is very, very thematic, but also a good idea, because again, Durthu could just waddle over there and start beating him down with his tree branches. So the Wild Riders are finally free. I'm going to be pulling them back. I do get a very nice Earthblood, which is going to be kind of mitigating some of that damage, though Cold One Spear Riders do charge in there, but I'm going to be switching the War Dancers in to fight these guys, and the War Dancers should be able to make relatively short work of the Cold One Spear Riders. Granted, my opponent doing a very good job protecting here with the Temple Guard, so certainly nothing is for free. So if we look in the back, the Skinks have definitely been causing a lot of mischief. I did detach one of my Eternal Guards, who of course have silver shields. At least they have some defense against the Skink fire. And I started chasing down the Chameleons, just doing my best to kind of screen them out. And from there, I'm like, okay, the Wild Riders need to come back here. They need to just eradicate these Skinks off the face of the planet here. The Earth, I don't really know. I guess it would be Earth, right? But anyways, Wild Riders going to be charging in, and they're just going to make quick work of Chameleons. That's pretty much what they're designed for. And yeah, they're going to be charging in here, running down these poor little lizards. Granted, there is some water nearby, so perhaps if they had fought in the water, the glorious aquatics trait would help. But not this day. This day, they're going to be scurrying away. So Durthu, in the meantime, is going to be marching across the front line, just trampling these Skinks and some of these other supporting troops as he goes. And yeah, it's a very just kind of bloody pit fight. The Temple Guard have pushed forward, and at this point, I do send in the Eternal Guard. But I kind of realized that this was a pretty grindy fight here with the Slann and some of these Skink cohorts and the Bastillodon. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to fall back, get a big heal. So therefore, I'm not going to be taking damage in the front line while I'm getting the free value in the back against these Chameleons, because this is a really nice grab. This is almost 1,200 gold we're going to be getting off the battlefield. One of them is shattered from the Wild Riders, and the other one has about 34 models. So if we look back to the main fight, Way Watchers have been taking quite a beating, and that's actually a pretty cool use of that Bastillodon with the Solar Engine against Way Watchers, because Way Watchers are very, very good against the big dinos, but the Solar Engine does have an accuracy debuff, which makes him much weaker, so I really like that play so far. Anyways, Durthu's going to be falling back. I'm just doing a full-on retreat with all my forces. The Treekin getting a little bit beat up. These ones were amongst, I think, the Temple Guard for a couple moments there, so they took quite a bit of damage. Plus, just this volume of fire coming in is pretty insane. On top of that, my opponent does have the Saurus Scarvet, who's a pretty good anti-large tool. I mean, he is going to lose to Durthu, of course, in a one-on-one duel. But if it does come down to that late game, and for example, all I have left is Durthu, it's going to be pretty powerful. So if we look in the back, the Wild Riders have returned from their quest to slay the Chameleon Skinks, and they're in pretty good shape. Yeah, they're holding it on. They're doing a pretty solid job here. But the dinos are going to be moving forward, using their Skink cohorts, those Roman lizard tactics, to move forward and just throwing those javelins, which is pretty cool. And I've repositioned my Way Watchers, so essentially I got them. I moved them down and around this lip here, trying to line of sight that Solar Engine. And you can see he's actually trying to shoot the Way Watchers, but they are obstructed here because I hid them around the corner. So that's definitely helping me to net some value. In the meantime, I do fall back here to get an Earthblood, and he also charges in with his Saurus Scarvet, but it's actually just there to blob me up. So I felt, I was like, it's a trap! I was actually ahead in the Bounce of Power, but this is really nice. It's going to be hitting all of these spears here, so man, I just got totally Admiral Akbar'd. I was like, oh, there's a freebie here. Plus, I want to go for an Earthblood anyway, so I was blobbing up anyways, guys. But man, that did a ton of damage, really shreked a lot of my Eternal Guards. So very, very good little trap there for my opponent. In the meantime, the Wild Riders are going to be charging in, trying to get some freebies on the Skink cohorts with javelins and break them. But the Saurus with spears are doing a good job, and also due to the nature of this map, I can't really get around the flanks easily because there's these natural faces. I believe one of my Saurus, or not Saurus, my Saurus Wild Riders, just imagine like Saurus riding the Wild Rider mounts. That'd be so damn funny. But anyways, the Wild Riders coming up and around the back here, so I had to take that long haul, and that's also one of the reasons I fell back, because I was kind of trying to pull my opponent forward a little bit and open up the back line for my Wild Riders. In the frontline fight, you can see that the Skink cohorts do have the shield of the old ones, but I have re-engaged. I have some Wild Riders helping in the front line. Treekin, of course, I mean, they're going to be pretty apt at, just spanking the Skinks a little bit. And the Branch Wraith here giving melee attack. And Big Papa Durthu coming in with that cleaving attack, just taking out 10 or 15 Skinks there with one blow. And he's going to be surging forward, but the Temple Guard are here now, so it's going to be a messy pit fight. Granted, Durthu does have the Sword of Dave, which is going to be quite helpful here. And Eternal Guard have pretty good armor-piercing value. So I think in a War of Attrition, considering I do have the Terror, I think we're going to be in good shape. So Durthu here, I believe is going to be summoning a Manticore relatively soon. I know I had one summoned somewhere at this point in the battle, but I can't quite remember. But I do fall back with my Wild Riders, knowing that the Cold One Spear Riders, even though they're very beat up, would put up a good fight with their 90 armor. He has a Saurus Scarvet here, which I actually didn't see. And on top of that, he does have the Chameleon Skink. So he has a lot of tools back there to kind of fend me off. So at the very least, though, these guys are all away from the main battle, and this is a lot of resources. So this front battle is going pretty well. The Eternal Guard are holding. Durthu, of course, is a presence. I mean, he's laying a bit of a whooping on these Temple Guard, who do have the Baroness Time Warp, but Sword of Dave is going to be lowering their armor. Not that it matters too much in the situation. Most of my troops, aside from the Treekin, are armor-piercing, but a very, very back-and-forth fight so far. It's been pretty wild. Feral Manticore has been summoned, and there are some pretty juicy targets. You can see this very, very low Rev Crystal. So the Bastillodon here, an ideal target, because in the long game, the Bastillodon is going to be so good for the dinosaurs. He's going to be just having those layers and layers of healing. So right here you can see the Feral Manticore is going to be going into the butter, the bread, chasing him, going after that Croissant right there, and the Bastillodon definitely is going to have to fall back. He does have 799 HP, only, yeah, negative 22 leadership, so he's pretty much in the pits, and the Manticore does have some time. It could rampage away, which would be unfortunate, but I really do want to get rid of that Bastillodon and get rid of the healing. In the main fight, you can see Durthu and the Branch Wraith have kind of secured the front line. The big tree people, the tree kin, actually holding pretty well. I mean, they've taken some pretty big beatings from Temple Guard, but, you know, even with that, we are fighting in the water, and of course the penalty for the infantry is going to be pretty substantial. I don't think Saurus, I mean, I guess they're reptiles, but I don't think they have the aquatics tree. But yeah, I do have that advantage as well, because we are fighting in the watery river, and it has helped the skinks a little bit. The skink cohorts, of course, have no penalty, but also my treekin haven't had that penalty. They've been able to hold and been doing a great job. And I did detach my Wild Riders from this frontline fight here because they were just kind of getting grinded down. I'm just using them to chase off skinks. Whenever you're in a very close pit fight like this, where it's just back and forth, always look for opportunities to kind of chase things down. And I also forgot to mention in the back, I did kind of get cornered here, and the Cold One Spear Riders plus the Saurus Garvet and a couple of the skinks who we did have in support, and they were actually chameleons, were able to kind of finish off my Wild Riders back there. So very well played by my opponent, cornering my forces. So over here, Feral Manticore is out of control. It's rampaging. Only 216 HP left on this Bastillodon, so Gary's going to be running into the sunset. Well, the Manticore is probably going to finish him off. So we do get rid of the Rev Crystal. And for the first time here, you can see the bounce power does shift a little bit in my favor, but still, it's certainly not over. I do have, you know, a false inflation from the Feral Manticore, so once he does disappear, the bounce power is going to be normalizing a little bit. But it's really just down to the ropes. I mean, my opponent has chameleon skinks. He has a couple of cohorts. He does have the Bastillodon with the Solar Engine, who they actually do have infinite ammunition as it pertains to the guys on the side throwing their poison javelins, which is quite nice. And you can see the Manticore actually does dive in and attack the Slan. It's going for that sweet, sweet banana, but the banana Slan's got the moves. He does have some Cold One Spear Riders, and you can see here that the Saurus Garvet is 100% up to the task of taking on that Feral Manticore. So the main fight's pretty much here. I mean, it's going to be a pit fight down to the bitter end here. Durthu marching forward. I have a couple groups of Eternal Guard. Azrai Spears in the back, and you can also see my Way Watchers. I've been able to preserve them relatively efficiently. They've saved most of their ammo. Oh, I mean, now at this point they're out, but over the course of the game I was auto-targeting them, so they're only shooting when I give them a target. And here we get a huge melting volley right there on that Bastillodon with the Solar Engine, which is going to be incredibly important. Now the skinks are fighting to the bitter end, and it looks like Cold One Spear Riders might be charging in here in just a moment to help out. Their anti-large would be very good against Durthu and the Treekin, but it looks like the Saurus Garvet is going to be coming to go fisticuffs. So we got Optimus Pine versus Jurassic Park over here, and it's going to be quite a slobber knocker. The Aura of Pretzel giving a melee defense and armor, and that explains it. I was like, why was he not taking damage to the first couple attacks? And on top of that, he did have the shield of the old ones. But the Saurus Garvet, definitely in the wrong neighborhood. I mean, Durthu he's an ancient one indeed. He's going to be taking a massive blast to the face with Shem's Burning Gaze. And the Feral Manticore is actually going to be dissipating because it is a summon unit. But Durthu is able to get a couple of cleaving attacks. And I do also push up the War Dancers, but I move them to intercept the Cold One Spear Riders. And they are going to be taking some heavy charges, but also their anti-large going to be very good against the Cold One Spear Riders in this very long, grinding fight. So the Deadly Onslaught has been popped on the Saurus Garvet, giving him some pretty good armor piercing. Charge bonus not going to be terribly helpful, but he has done about 1500 HP damage to Durthu, so he's paying his union dues. He's doing a solid job, but here he's going to be getting shaken. The Azrai Spears pile back in. The Branch Wraith comes in, so there's fear. There's all kinds of elements here that are going to be just punishing this dinosaur. Granted, he's immune to fear. If he crosses fear, so it doesn't really matter. But anyways, the Saurus Garvet, he's getting very low. 1000 HP in the back. We do have some of these War Dancers with Azrai Spears, just in mortal combat with the Cold One Spear Riders, who have pretty good leadership. Man, these guys are still fighting to the bitter end, and the Banana Slan is going to be dropping some of that sweet thunder on these guys. So the War Dancers are going to be forced back most likely. They only have 21 models, but yeah, I mean, they have good leadership too, so they're holding pretty hard. But I think this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. This is going to be the metaphorical moment where, you know, Bane picks up Batman and breaks his back over his knee when the Saurus Garvet does get terrified and pushed off here. So Durthu's able to terrify him with his ancient gaze, or yeah, I don't know. I wonder who's. I mean, Durthu is very old, but I know most of the dinosaurs, like the Scarvets and like Croc, are just ancient. They're old as hell too, but who cares? We'll save that discussion for the Lore Master of Zotek. Anyways, Durthu here is going to be fighting. We do, of course, have the Branch Wraith in here providing all of these nice, juicy buffs, putting the melee attack of the Treekin up to a whopping 25. So that's definitely one of their weaker points, is that they have that very low melee attack. And the Lamentation of Despair is going to be going down to hit the Saurus Garvet, but he is able to Matrix me and dodge that. But from here, I think the battle's really going to kind of favor my build. I have a lot of Eternal Guards here with their anti-large and their armor piercing. I have Treekin, just this massive anchor of HP. And yes, they're getting dragged down, but they're still doing a good job. And Durthu's going to be going after the Banana Slan, trying to Optimus Pine this guy. And yeah, look at this sword. That sword is so damn cool. And he gets in there with the whip, actually. So he's whipping that banana, guys. The Aura of Quetzal and the Shield of the Old Ones being popped in a very timely manner, which is going to help these guys hold. But the Wild Riders do return from their quest. They were actually hunting down skinks and chasing off a group of Sora Spears. But they return and get a very heavy charge into the back of the Temple Guard. They instantly break the Cold and Spear Riders. And that's pretty much going to be it, as the dinosaurs are slapped with army losses. So what an incredible game. Very well played by my opponent. That was a back and forth, very technical game. And that map actually made it pretty fun. Taking those like big, wide routes, getting around the back and forcing these awkward engagements, I think was very cool. And yeah, the Treekin did okay. I mean, in the river, they fought pretty well, right? Because they weren't being penalized. And neither were the Skinks, though, but I guess the Saurus were. So yeah, some give and take on that. But the Treekin did okay. The Way Watchers, I think, were a good pick. They were able to pick apart the big dinosaurs. The Eternal Guard did their job, but I really think the MVPs were the Wild Riders. Those initial charges did a ton of damage, and throughout the course of the whole battle, they were into these really just clutch moments, doing a ton of damage against some of the high value targets, chasing down those skinks, which were just terrorizing my back line, and at the end coming in for that death blow to assist Earthu and force him out terror route. But look at that, 159 kills on Big Papa, man. Him and his tentacle and his sword there definitely did some, or his roots, whatever you guys want to call it, did some really, really good work. So yeah, solid stuff. My opponent's build was great. I mean, I love the skink cohorts. I think against Wood Elves, it's going to be pretty good against their lightly armored infantry. Against their archers, they have shields. It's a solid pick. The chameleon skinks, of course, have very good missile resist, and I love the blind on the Bastillodon with the solar engine, especially on that map where I was kind of forced into a choke point. I felt like the Bastillodon really did a good job. So very well played to my opponent.
Blind Zizka.
Look forward to facing off against you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Wood Elf versus Last Defenders game. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.